listening to the Sass Says podcast. I'm your host, Christie, also known as Sass. I identify as a woman, a wife, and a mother. That should tell you a lot already. And over the last few years, I've learned the value of talk therapy. I have seen how my inner work not only enhances my own well-being, but also my marriage, my parenting, my relationships. And in fact, you wouldn't be hearing this right now if it weren't for the work I've done. My mission is to debunk the misconceptions and stigmas around what therapy is and who it's for. Let's normalize working on our mental health and seeking help when needed. We've all heard of self-care, self-help, and self-love, but do you often wonder how to actually make it all happen? I do. You'll hear strategy-based conversations with professionals, as well as inspiring and validating stories from women who are just like you and me. Think of this podcast as the weekly therapy sessions you didn't know you needed, with a dash of sass, a lot of vulnerability, and me, relentlessly asking, but how? Oh my goodness. Okay, this is a very exciting day. My guest today is Meredith Masony. You know her, you love her, but on the slight chance that this is a new name that you're hearing, I'll tell you a little bit about her. She is the founder of That's Inappropriate, an online parenting community with over 4 million followers across social media platforms, where members can talk about the parenting experiences they love, hate, and everything in between. Meredith is a former teacher and has spoken at women's and social media conferences, including Dad 2.0, Mom 2.0, and Start Loving You. She is the author of Scoop the Poop and Ask Me What's for Dinner One More Time. Meredith and her friends Dina and Tiffany took their comedy out on the road last year for the My Name Is Not Mom live tour. Meredith is married to her best friend Dave. Shout out Dave. He is a gem. He has interacted with me a few times over email and just an all-around full-on supporter of Meredith and everything she is doing. He's also now her business partner. They live in Florida with their 3 children, 2 dogs, and a couple of new kittens. I started following along with Meredith and her family about 5 years ago when my oldest was born. You may know some of her viral videos that first enticed me to her platform. They are some of her famous ones about moms and what they really want for Mother's Day, the mom cold versus the man cold, all of the funny things moms say, and boys' inability to pee inside the bowl. They have millions upon millions of views, and I'm just really excited to have her here. So today I ask Meredith to reflect on the last 9 years. Yes, nearly a decade of creating content, going viral, starting businesses, showing up and connecting with her community, and how she still has time and energy to mother, wife, and take care of herself. This conversation was a vision board come to life for me, and I know you're going to love it as much as I did, so here's Meredith. Hey, Meredith. So nice to meet you. I can't believe I'm looking at you right now. Thank you for being here.
Of course. I know I did put on a full face of makeup and brush my hair for you. So,
well, I didn't do that for you. So no expectations here.
You can't have expectations with me. I feel like it's a losing battle.
Yeah.
So,
well, that is essentially what you've kind of built your platform around, right? Like just showing up as you are in the moment.
yeah, I mean, and the moment changes, right? Because there are times where I try to be like, I can do all of this.
Mm.
And about 20%, I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do any of it. And then there are days where I can get to like 98%. Mm-hmm. But I feel like the only thing that I've been consistent with from day one of starting this is that I've been honest that that's where I'm at and that's who I am. Mm-hmm. Like, that's all I have. I always tell people when they storm onto the page and say, well, I'm leaving. I don't like the way you are anymore. And it's like, well, this is what I have to offer. Mm. If you don't like it, you don't have to stay here. Like, I'm not being paid any more or any less for your presence here. Like, this is a free platform. You can come and watch my videos or my rants, or you can, go watch somebody who's a little more palatable.
Yeah. Well, and I, and I've followed you and known of you now since I had my first kid, which is about 5 years ago. And
Oh, wow.
um, but you've been doing this a long time. You started your blog in 2014. This is coming up on a decade. Like,
It is.
and then hearing you say what you just said, someone coming on the page and being like, I don't like who you are anymore. What do you think it is that they're hearing or seeing that's changed?
I think we're supposed to change as people and evolve. If we don't, you become stagnant, right? And I am definitely guilty of some of the things from day one. My husband just sat me down last night and gave me a lecture about something pertaining to the page and my creative burnout. And he's like, "You cannot film every single day. Da, 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 da. You are burnt out." And he's not wrong. But part of me is just like, there's all this stuff in here and I want to get it out. And he's like, "Well, then if you get it out, save it and release one a week instead of releasing 3 things a week or 5 things." He's like, "What are you trying to do to yourself?" So I'm guilty of doing a lot of those things that cause burnout and angst. But I feel like through this journey of, we are going into the 9th year of doing this. I have learned a lot. I've changed a lot. I've grown as a person. I've realized what battles I do, what battles I want to pick, what battles I don't want to pick with people. The fact that, you know, people have watched my family grow up.
Mm-hmm.
Like that to me is probably the weirdest part of this whole thing is I did we just wrapped a tour. Was 16 months, 75 shows.
Wow.
It's crazy. But the people that I met were like, "I watched your oldest from elementary to now in high school."
Yeah.
And that to me was like, it blew me away because these people were talking about and referring to things that happened 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm a completely different person than I was 8 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Thank the Lord. Right? Like, I feel like you're supposed to be a different person
Mm-hmm.
and you're supposed to change and learn. If you don't learn, then you can't do better.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I struggle with that with people when they come on and they're like, "Well, you're just so different." And I was like, what'd you want me to do? Like
Right.
dig a hole and just sit in the hole and
Right.
that's who I am forever? I wouldn't give that advice to anybody. I think
Right.
that's terrible advice. I think you have to learn and grow and find, what you're passionate about and explore that. And, I mean, believe me, I've had 9 businesses probably in the last 9 years,
Mm-hmm.
all running together simultaneously, sometimes on, sometimes off, over here, over there.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to change.
Yeah.
Change equals growth.
Yeah.
If you ask me.
Well, and if we look at what you talk about, right? Like you're talking about mostly motherhood, right? So even thinking about how, what I talk and think about as a mom of toddlers is certainly going to change as my kids grow. The struggles change, the challenges change, the parenting style and thoughts and beliefs and understanding change. So even if you as a person didn't intellectually or emotionally grow and evolve, like your kids would grow and that would automatically change the conversation. Like it seems pretty obvious
You
when
would
you think of
hope.
it that way.
You
Yeah,
would hope, right? I mean, you can't picture your kid driving a car right now. You
absolutely
can't,
not.
you cannot,
No,
right?
no.
Well, I just went through the whole year of driver's ed, teaching the kid to drive, getting in the car with him, to him now driving us places.
Yeah. Wow.
And it is such a weird place to be
Mm-hmm.
because I can remember obviously, cuddling him and cradling him and him walking him around on his lion leash when he was first learning to walk. And now the kid is driving,
Mm-hmm.
a Tiguan. And it's like, what is happening with
Yeah.
my life? But that's your job as a parent, is to teach them so that they can grow and become who it is that they're supposed to become,
Mm-hmm.
not who you want them to become, not what you think they're supposed to be doing, not some version of yourself, who they are supposed to be. And it's not easy. I mean, there are definitely, and then you give them a car, right? And you don't see them anymore.
Yeah.
He's at practice, he's on a date, he's hanging with friends, he's going here. And it's like, oh my gosh, like, I don't think he came in any day this week before 8 p.m.
Wow.
And I was like, but I haven't seen you. And he's like, I know, we're preseason for track. It's like, I'm there. He's there 4 days a week. Then he asked to go on a date. And I was like, well, yeah, you're supposed to go on dates.
Right.
You're 16. You're going to be 17 in a few months. You're supposed to go on dates. Yeah.
Right.
But it's a completely, you can't picture that now because you're not supposed to, because you're not prepared to picture it now.
Mm-hmm.
When you get to this spot, it becomes real.
Yeah.
But you have to start going through the motions of that. You can't, I wouldn't want to keep them toddlers forever. That was a really rough phase for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want toddlers forever. Right. I'm enjoying seeing them grow up, but I'm not going to lie to you and be like, I'm not panicked about him going away and living on his own in a year and a half. Cause I am. Mm-hmm. That panics me, mm-hmm. but I know that's the next step. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's progress.
Yeah.
Or whatever he does, goes to college, doesn't go to college, whatever it is. I don't care. But odds are within, 18 months, you're not going to be living with me anymore.
Yeah. That's wild. That's wild for even me to think about your kids. Because I've watched him now for even just 5 years as a kid, grow up. Like it's
a lot, right? It's weird. The whole thing is weird. And that was the thing that hit me the most, I think, when we were on tour is we did these meet and greets and you get to meet these people who have followed for so long, or even if they're new to us as comics or whatever, but they're watching my family grow, my family change, mm-hmm. my family evolve, my family have struggles. And I think that's important to show people, because the stuff that we see on TV, the scripted crap that we see that they say is unscripted, which is BS, that's not what a normal family looks like. A normal family fights. A normal family has problems. A normal family goes, if you ask me, goes to therapy. A normal family does all of these things. And I kind of, for whatever reason, felt like it was somewhat my duty to be like, hey, this is some, my husband and I fight. My kids can be ungrateful a-holes. This is real life.
Yeah. How do you balance that call to show that and be that person with the fact that your husband and kids are real people with feelings and emotions? Like, how does putting all this out there into the world affect you, affect them? What's the balance there between what you show, what you don't? I've asked you 4 questions in one. So pick where you want to go with that.
So as they got older, there were certain things that they were like, you can't talk about this. And they'll come to me and they'll tell me, you can't talk about this.
Okay.
And I'll say, got it. Mm-hmm. No problem. There are other things that they'll say, you can talk about this, but you can't name names.
Okay.
No problem. And I try to keep the kids' friends' names out of it, unless they're also friends of the parents are friends of mine and everybody kind of knows what we're doing. Mm-hmm. I don't want to ever put somebody on blast. Maybe my husband.
Yeah.
But he knows.
Right.
He knows exactly that the second we have a conversation or a fight about something, he knows exactly where I'm going. I'm going to go tell everybody what you just said. You said something real stupid. I'm going to go tell everyone. And I do the same thing about me. I'm like, I cannot believe I just said this or I just did this, because I can be a real moron at times. But I think that in that, and I feel like, unfortunately, the words raw and authentic and organic have become so overplayed and overused in the last, 6 years-ish. But it is raw. Mm-hmm. But I'm the person that hates when you are scrolling through Instagram and TikTok and you see the setup BS where they're like, this video, they both created this video, but she's like, I'm going to surprise my boyfriend and blah, 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 and say this.
Oh, yeah.
And it's all scripted and it's BS. And you sit there and it's just like, that isn't helpful to anybody.
Yeah.
You pretending to do something on camera doesn't help anybody with any relationship issue they're having or whatever. You want to help somebody? Now, maybe they're not trying to help people, which is fine. But you have to be, I feel like bottom line is you have to be honest with where you're at in that space. So if I'm having a real issue with my husband and we've talked it out or whatever, And I want to come here and say, this is what happened. This is what we've been fighting about. Because like we had probably the roughest year of our marriage during this tour. Mm-hmm. The roughest. We just celebrated in October 19 years.
Wow.
This was the hardest.
Wow. And
I was honest
being
about
away.
That. Me being away, issues with, everything falling on his plate. In the middle of all of this, we have decided to open another business. And this one is a brick and mortar business. So it's, mm-hmm. He has to go and physically do construction over there. And then he's got to do all the pickups. And then I'm coming in and I'm nasty and in a terrible mood because I have traveled for 6 days and I'm only home for 2 days. And so I'm trying to clean everything and cook everything and get everybody up to par. And then I realized he hasn't done 90 of the things that I put on his list. And he's like, don't give me a list. I'm not one of your subordinates. I'll do what I want to do. And blah, blah, blah. And so you're just like, oh my gosh. But that's reality. That's where we were. We had to really learn. Just like when you first learn to live together, you have to learn how to live apart. Mm. If that happens in your mm-hmm. marriage for whatever reason, mm-hmm. because it's not something you're used to.
Yeah.
I was prior to that, I was not used to ever being away from him.
Right.
Since we got married, there was nobody traveled for work. If we traveled, we mostly traveled together.
Right.
And since I started doing this 9 years ago or whatever, there have been instances where I've had to go, but nothing was ever more than a week.
Right.
And this was like Groundhog Day of every day of our lives.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of stress and a lot of therapy.
Yeah.
And it was imperative that we did it because, it is people who have worked. I would meet people in the airport that are like, this is my 20th year traveling for work. I'm gone every week. I come home on the weekends. And I just look and I was like, I've done it a year and a half and there's no way. Like, yeah. Now, a lot of them were older, don't have kids at home. It's a different dynamic, but to choose to do what we did with kids the age of my kids or even Tiffany's kids, mm-hmm. being younger was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so now as difficult as it was that you just shared, and thank you for being honest about that, I can see how at this point, 9 years in, your husband is part of your business behind the scenes. Like there is, I think now an understanding, like you said, you guys have a conversation, someone says something stupid, you're going to go talk about it. Go back 9 years, like go back 6 years to the man cold, like all the things that you have, sort of put him on blast about. Was it always like, this is okay? Or like, I'm getting at someone like me, because this is my show. So of course I want to know, like, yeah. I'm just starting out. These are not, there's been topics even that I've covered on the show that sometimes my husband's like, hit a little too close to home. Like, is it a learning curve? What advice would you give? Was it always smooth sailing? Because it's hard. No, like we choose to be out there, but maybe they don't, but they want to support us. And it's hard. It's a hard line.
So I made a video back at the very, very beginning of this. And my husband at the time was an assistant principal. And there was a student sitting in his office. And I don't remember exactly what the video was about, but I had made some personal comments about my husband, right? And I don't remember what they were in reference to, but something he probably said or did or whatever. And the girl looks at him and goes, your wife is that lady on YouTube, right? And she just made that video about you, right? And he was like, I'm at work and this is happening and I don't like this.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what do you want? What do you want me to do? Do you want me? And of course I get indignant. I'm like, you want me to censor myself? Yeah. Is that what you want from me? And I'm just like, and he's like, okay, Diane Sawyer. Right. He's like, calm down. Like, I don't know who you think you are with your little YouTube channel.
Right.
And to his credit, he's right that there are some things that you probably shouldn't say about. So there's lots of conversations. If I think it's conversation worthy, I won't post or talk about it prior to having that conversation.
Okay.
There were even jokes that we did that were part of my set and one bit in particular. And I ran it past him and I'm like, are you cool with this? Because it discusses personal things about him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yeah, I don't care. Now that's, 8.5, 9 years
Right.
in.
He gets it.
Had I told that joke 8 years ago, no, it wouldn't have flown. It would have been very embarrassing. But everything in our lives has changed from day one to today.
Mm-hmm.
He no longer works in a school.
Right.
He does get texts from his friends when I post something and they go, oh my God, your wife just, slayed you. And he's like, yeah, that's what she does.
Yeah.
There's more of an understanding, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, knock on wood, that I would ever, in anger, say something. I would hope that I would be smart enough and kind enough to not do that.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that I do, I try to do in jest.
Right.
Whether it's him not unpacking his suitcase for the 800th time since we've been home, to him, not scotch guarding my kitchen chairs that we've now had going on 3 years that he swears he's going to get to. It is the stuff that most of us go through in our marriage. Those are the things that I'm highlighting because I feel like this is relatable to somebody else.
Yes.
I don't want to ever be the person who is like, I'm going to go air all your dirty laundry and let everybody know. Because that's not what this is about. This is about how can we relate as a community. Mm-hmm. And men and women are they're very different, but we can relate to each other, right? So like the stuff your husband is doing is probably stuff my husband is doing. Mm-hmm. The stuff, your mother-in-law is doing is probably the stuff my mother could be, Mm-hmm. And so that's where I try to find those things to have conversations about. Mm-hmm. Nobody can be 100% transparent and have relationships with other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you have to keep some things quiet from, because it could hurt that person's feeling. It could, and you don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. And so I just always try to sit and think, is he going to be upset? If I think he might be upset, I'm going to show it to him. So for instance would be it went crazy on Instagram. It had like 10 million views. I did a mix reel of a guy installing carpet. Mm-hmm. And I'm in a bathrobe and I'm watching this. And then all of a sudden I get up and I go to get on all fours. And the carpet guy is like banging away behind me, right?
I saw this, yeah.
So I make this and I'm like, I think it's funny, right? Because I look like this and I've got my glasses on in my bathrobe and I send it to my husband and he's like, oh my God, this is the funniest thing you've ever done. And I was like, this is the funniest? He's like, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. And it went crazy, right? And I thought this could offend him,
right? Because
it's this dude with no shirt on banging away behind me. He didn't care at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then he sent me the axe guy, the chopping axe guy. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you saw that one. I did another one with the guy Thor. I think his damn name is, and he looks like a Thor. Oh my God, he's beautiful. And so I do another one and it goes crazy, right? And because it's stupid and it's funny and it's meant to be a joke. But I sent it to him first. And he was like, hilarious.
Yeah.
If it's not something that he's comfortable with, I didn't share it.
Right. Okay. Fair. Yeah.
Conversations first.
Yeah. Just as you're talking, and sharing whatever word best describes how you want to say it, like the real, the raw, when it comes to your marriage, when it comes to your kids and motherhood, I relate. There's 3.5 million other women out there, and I'm sure some men who relate to your content and that's why we're here. But I've seen recently, mostly on TikTok, because like I have a love-hate relationship with that app, but there are women now posting on TikTok that are like hot take or unpopular opinion, I love my kids or I love spending time with my kids and my husband and they're not the enemy. They're not the worst people ever. Like kind of like fighting back against this whole like making light, making joke, like talking about, I'm trying to choose my words carefully, how a lot of motherhood content creators, wives, we want to joke about these things. We want to share the real. We want to joke about the hard stuff. And there's like this group of women, at least on my For You page now, that's like coming back and being like, what's so bad about having kids and a husband? Like, I like spending time with my kids, like da da da. And it's like, I wonder, just in the years that you've been doing this and knowing where you kind of stand on all these things, like when you see something like that, does it faze you? Do you think about it at all? Like, I don't know. Do you think anyone like truly just is like butterflies and sunshine and roses about all this stuff all the time? Because I feel like that's what they're trying to say.
So no, I think it's garbage. I think it's
It
BS
has
because
to be, right? Like,
I
I don't
think
know.
that there are, I took my kids literally to a tropical island for Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
The most beautiful water you could ever see on the planet in Turks and Caicos. I take them to an all-inclusive resort,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it was the end of the tour. We had planned this trip for a full year. I wanted downtime, but I wanted the kids to come because I hadn't seen them. And my daughter, the morning of Thanksgiving, we're trying to get out of the room. And I'm like, I just need you to put on a bathing suit. And she's like, I can't put on my bathing suit because you washed it. And I said, I don't know what that means. And she's like, well, when you washed it, something broke and now it makes a noise. I said, let me get this straight. Your bathing suit is making a noise. She goes, it squeaks. I was like, I don't know what you're saying. And she stands there with the bathing suit and she starts moving it around like this. And she's like, do you hear it? It's squeaking. And I was like, you have 8 suits.
Right.
Wear any other suit.
Right.
This went on for 45 minutes in the room. I finally looked at her and I said, listen to me. You've stolen my mimosa time. Okay. With my pancakes, which was between 9 and 10. All right. I am leaving this room. Don't care what you do. I've offered you my suits. You have your own suits, but I am leaving. Right. Okay. I leave. 30 minutes later, she comes down in the squeaky noise making bathing suit. I was like, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't.
I know.
You cannot. It doesn't matter if you're on a tropical island. Doesn't matter where you are. Your kids are going to do something that is going to drive you up a wall that they hate you for, that whatever, because that's life.
Yeah.
That is raising an almost 14-year-old girl.
Yeah.
That is what this is. And if I don't have the opportunity to go and talk about that, I will explode, me as a person. Mm-hmm. So I went down and I made this little reel on Instagram and I was like, things I'm thankful for this year. And it was vodka because I was drinking at 10 a.m. because I just had to listen to the squeaky bathing suit conversation for 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. And that was my reality. Yeah. So I think that sometimes I will get people that will write to me and they're like, we're doing a write-up in such and such online magazine or whatever. Why do you hate men? Is the question, right? And it's like, well, I don't remember where I wrote or said that I hate men. Right. Because I have news for you. If I was Bill Burr, I'd be allowed to say whatever I want because listen, I like him very much. That's probably, talk about an unpopular opinion as a female. Lots of females don't like Bill Burr as a comic because he is, to say the man is blunt, yes, and some of the stuff that comes out of his mouth, mm-hmm, but he can tell a joke. Right. The guy can write bits. The guy takes relatable things and strings them together. And I like Bill Burr. I like him, right? But the stuff he says about women, right, can be just, I can sit there and be like, I cannot believe this man just said this, right, and still has a career. But that's because in reality, some of this is really funny stuff. Mm-hmm. Like it is funny. Some of this is in fact funny. Yeah. But I don't feel like there's a world where I could go and say it the way he does and I wouldn't be burned at the stake. Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. I would be. Mm-hmm. I would be canceled so fast. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like we have, as women, have to be so diligent about the words we choose, the actions we choose, the time we decide to share them. And that can be exhausting in of itself, mm-hmm, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's ridiculous, yeah, but it's a double standard. And so I guess there are these women now who want to be like, no, I just love every second of spending time with my husband and every second of being with my kids. And it's like, I don't. Yeah. I don't. Yeah. And I don't know why it's wrong to say that. Yeah. You don't want me to come at you for saying you love every minute of it. Go love every minute. I don't care. I don't believe you. Right. Right. But I'm not going to post on your thing. I don't believe you. Right. Right. Because I don't care enough to post, yeah, about that.
Yeah, I see it, and I've been seeing it recently, and I think it's unfortunately just one of those things where I watched one long enough to try to figure out if it was
Satire?
yes. And
Yeah.
so then TikTok just shows me more of them. And I'm like, no, 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 this is not the side of TikTok I want to be on. This was a
Mm-hmm.
mistake, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but I saw it and thought, you're missing the point. You're missing the point. No one who talks about motherhood or marriage as being difficult or, you know, kind of laughing about the hard stuff is saying that the whole thing is hard. Like, we're saying that there's hard moments. Like, you can love being a mom and not love every moment of it.
Uh,
You
complete.
probably you could do like a whole year on that topic, but I, you know, just and you know what's interesting is as a consumer of your online content, you know, I can appreciate how much goes into what you do, but just now hearing you talk more about the tour and the show and even talking about Bill Burr, like wearing the hat of comic feels like it feel just hearing you talk, it feels like that is a happy place for you to be. Is there you wear a lot of hats though. It's like comic, mom, podcaster, author, content creator, like what's the top one? Where do you feel most like Meredith?
On stage.
Yeah.
I do. I love it. I love everything about it. I remember the first time I ever went on stage and I thought I was going to crap my pants and I couldn't do it without alcohol. I was like, I need to drink 2 drinks before I get up there because it was an open mic at a comedy club. So there could have been maybe 200 people there.
Wow.
Right. And
That's
I
a
was
lot.
scared to
Yeah.
death. For my first time, I was like, and I had written this really terrible, I think I had to do 2.5 minutes or something was my slot, and I thought 2.5 minutes is forever,
Yeah.
right? And I remember, so I did several of those open mics and like amateur nights and things like that years ago, back in like 2016. And by the time I had gotten to this tour, I was grateful that I had been in front of enough people, on enough stages, in front of enough audiences that I would have never taken a drink before getting on stage because I wanted to make sure that everything that I was doing was precise and locked in and on target and I was ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to enjoy every minute. I wanted to remember every feeling that I had, every rush of adrenaline that I had. And we were in front of audiences of as little as 500 to as many as, 2,100. And it's almost indescribable to feel that wave of laughter and applause come back at you. It's like almost like earthquake stuff, like coming at you. And it's crazy. And it's a rush. So I love that. I love meeting the people at the meet and greets. I love connecting and seeing, because you guys see me,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't see you.
Yeah.
I see your comments, I see your profile pictures, but to have somebody standing in front of you and then it click and be like, oh my God, you're nurse so-and-so from blah, blah, blah. And you're like, yes, I hope to see your stuff in the feed. That is a big part of the joy that I found on tour.
Mm-hmm.
This past year and a half. So yeah, I'm going to do it again.
Yeah.
I'm going to give myself some downtime. I'm going to give myself some time to rest and write a new show.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll probably go out on my own.
Yeah.
And smaller venues, probably, well, definitely smaller venues because 2,100 was insane. But, more intimate setting, but just me getting to go out and talk about the things that I think women and moms and wives want to talk about.
Cool. I made a note and I couldn't remember why I made the note, but hearing what you said just reminded me. When you were talking about earlier about, and it relates, your husband saying like, hey, you know what, creator burnout, record it, but slow release, maybe not release
Mm-hmm.
every day. And now hearing you talking about sort of that rush of the feedback and the laughter, I sometimes wonder myself, would it be enough to just record it and not release it? Like, I definitely thrive off of the feedback. And I feel like sometimes there is, at least for me, some shame in like admitting that the attention and the feedback and the interaction is part of what drives it. And I wonder for you, like, is that, it seems like it is, but it would just like creating content for no one to see be enough? Like it feels like you need more,
No.
right? Like we need it's
No, the feedback is how you learn and grow to do the next thing. And
yeah.
so I think the reason that I've never held anything back is because, so my husband doesn't understand that part.
Yeah.
So he's like, if you've taken all the time to make these things, just wait. And it's like, well, I can't wait because I need to know now what they're going to
Right.
think. I need to know
Yes.
now what they're going to say.
Yes.
And that is a struggle
Yeah.
that we have because he is not the creative type,
Right.
right? He is the logical, I'll make you a spreadsheet and I'm going to explain to you why this is what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm over here like, I like birds and I want to talk more about the color red and I want to, and I just start to go and I just go, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I finally hired a business coach this year because I needed help getting focused and organized.
Yeah.
Because I'm very good at certain things. And then there are other things that I cannot handle on my own because I get lost in my own thoughts and I get lost in my own, as I'm trying to put things down on paper, I call it swirly. I get swirly. And so, I finally was like, I'm 42 running all of these businesses, trying to do all of these things. I need professional help to figure out how to make this journey a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Or at least not that it'll make the journey easier, but it will make the organization easier.
Yeah.
More efficient. I'm more efficient. I'm terrible at organization. I have 6 notepads right now, papers all over the place with different notes and things because that's how my brain operates.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I've done anything on here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I need help with that. And this woman, she's a doctor. She was a Kellogg fellow. It's crazy. I met her. She lives in my neighborhood, and I was like, "Holy crap! You're like some powerful CEO, and you live down the street from me, and you're retired." And she's like, "Yeah, I do counseling, career counseling, and individual." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, let's do that."
Yeah.
Hi, come to my house once a week and let's figure this out.
That's awesome.
And it's been great because there are people like her that are meant to help crazy people like me put things down together because I can leave here and have an idea of what I'm going to do the rest of the day and then do 98 other things.
Yeah.
And not the one thing that I was like, I got to do this today.
Yeah. So is swirly, is that anxiety? Is that distraction? Is it all of the above? Like, what is swirly? What does it manifest like for you? What does it feel like? What does it come out as?
So swirly is total anxiety. And I'm somebody who I live in the future. My entire life is lived in the future. I have a very difficult time being satisfied and grateful in the present. I don't know how to enjoy things. I don't know how to relax. I am always working towards what is next. What is the next move that I need to make? What is the next thing that I have to do? Who do I have to take care of? I'm always in the future. I am what my business coach called me as a futurist. It is a skill set, but unfortunately, it robs you of any joy in the present a lot of times. And I've been honest about that with people because they're like, you need to be grateful. And it's like, I'd love to be more grateful. I just don't know how because I love my family. I love taking care of them. I love that I've been able to figure out how to have a career that pays the bills and they get to go do fun things like pole vaulting and horseback riding and whatever. But I'm so focused on making sure that those things are taken care of that I find it very difficult to focus on the present, the today, the now. And so she's also trying to break me of that because she's like, if you're doing all of this, you need to learn how to enjoy these moments because these are all little successes. And so it's very difficult. I feel like for some people, it just comes so naturally. And I am jealous of people who can relax because I don't know how they compartmentalize that in their brain because my brain is a computer screen with every tab open all of the time.
Yeah.
And people who can just shut the tabs down and be like, this is where I'm going to be right now is in this moment and relax and enjoy. I don't know how they do that.
Yeah.
I just can't figure it out. And so like when I get swirly, my go-to is to clean something, organize something. Like right before the trip, I went through and organized our entire closet by color, which made no sense because it didn't benefit anybody and it didn't get anything done.
Right.
But I color coded every article of clothing in the closet.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I haven't worn that in 3 years. I haven't did it. And I'm just, and my husband comes in, he's like, what are you doing? And I was like, well, I was a little anxious. So I've organized everything by color and I redid the shoe racks. And he's like, you've lost your mind. But if I can control something,
Yes.
I can talk myself down from the swirly.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I feel that. And it's reminding me a little bit. You probably don't recall because I happened to be emailing with Dave. It was July 2021. And he so graciously stepped in on your behalf and emailed, I'm assuming everyone in your email that had emailed you and just been like, hi, it's Dave. I'm emailing. I'm taking over her account. She needs to relax, da 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 da. And you shared within that same week on social media that you had your first ever panic attack. And I'm wondering can you go back to that and share a little bit about what prompted that, how you coped with it, what it meant to actually slow down? Because it seemed like either you forcefully were made to or you did yourself. And I'm just curious, if you could put yourself back in those shoes, what was going on for you?
I didn't know he did that.
Oh, my bad.
So that's Dave, and I'm glad he did, but he didn't tell me that he did that.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh.
No, you're okay. But that's why I love him.
Oh, he was a gem about it. He was like,
that's why
she
I
just
love him.
needs a break. Yeah.
But I had it was probably the scariest moment. I thought I was having a heart attack, but logically I knew I wasn't having a heart attack, but I couldn't get anything under control. To the point where I was on the ground in the fetal position, sobbing so hysterically that I couldn't catch my breath.
Yeah.
And then Dave comes running in to find me on the bathroom floor and he's trying to pick me up. And then the kids come running in. So everybody is watching this. And it was the most broken that I had ever felt as a person. And the poor kids thought that Dave was holding me down. Then they're yelling at him and he's yelling at them going, I'm helping her, but they were just panicked because they saw me inconsolable.
Wow.
And I felt so terribly guilty after the fact that because like my husband would never, put a hand on me.
Right.
But I could see as a kid how scary that would be to see your mom on the floor in pieces. And then, because he was actively trying to get me up to see what was wrong with me.
Yeah.
And I couldn't talk. No words came out. They were when I tell you, they were primal screams of just like, I felt like I was dying. I was like howling. It was the most awful, like, no, I don't want to go back there and I don't want to feel that ever again. I don't want to put myself in that place ever again. But I can tell you that I was broken in that moment. Like I broke in that moment. And part of it was getting ready and launching and planning this tour and dealing with like we didn't use a management company. We did every part. We did every piece. We built everything from ground up. I would never do that again.
Okay.
I would never do what I did again.
Okay.
I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating. I wasn't doing anything but working the majority of the 24 hours that were in a day. It was bad business. It was bad choices. And it left me completely detached from my family, not paying attention to anybody's needs but my own in terms of getting this show going and moving forward. And it was a really dumb choice that I regret because it put me in a really bad headspace and it put me in a bad space physically. And I couldn't control my emotions. And it was one of those things where people talk about, yeah, I put my blood, sweat, and tears into it. It's like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Everything, my sanity, everything.
Yeah.
Because people don't think of all of the parts and pieces that go together to putting something like this together.
Mm-hmm.
Everything from, and we had a team of people, but when you are the director, the producer, the creator, the talent,
yeah,
and you aren't just the role of the talent, but you're the role of all of these other people, and you're attending all of these day-long Zoom meetings to get all of this stuff done, and you're doing all of this research, because I had never done anything like this before, and you're having arguments about stuff, and because I'll be honest, there were disagreements about where are we going, what are we doing, because
right.
there are 3 different people that
Right.
traveled together, to get this thing done.
Yeah.
You're not all gonna have a good time together all of the time.
Right.
But it's a business. It has to operate as a business.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, the goal is you have to make money.
Right.
You have to make money in order for this to have made any type of sense.
Mm-hmm.
And when there are 3 people on top of the team that has to get paid, the amount of pressure
Mm-hmm.
was something that I'd never felt before.
Yeah.
Because I felt responsible for all of it.
Right.
I know that now looking back, that's not right. I shouldn't have.
Right.
But I felt responsible for every single thing, every ticket that was sold, every time. I felt 100% total responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And it cracked me.
Yeah.
It broke me. And so I did. I was forced to have some downtime, and I got myself regrouped before we went really hard on the road, because I knew I only had a little bit of time, but I'll never do it again.
Yeah. So, kind of an action step is like, okay, use a management company or get a coordinator, like have someone else involved. Are there things for you personally, maybe just at home with yourself, that you're like, okay, you know what? These are some of the things that I need to implement so that I don't get back there. Like, how do you take care of yourself? How do you, having had that experience and knowing you never want to get back to it, have you thought about ways, or have you done things now to change your life or to implement certain routines or habits, or like self-care is basically like what I'm getting at,
Therapy.
Yeah.
I started going to therapy after that. I called my primary care physician, told him what happened, and he prescribed Xanax. And I was like, this is a Band-Aid, man.
Yeah.
Like Xanax is nice if you take it before bed and you get some sleep or whatever. Cause he's like, well, you haven't been sleeping. You need to sleep somehow. Mm-hmm. And he didn't want to give me Ambien, which I also didn't want to take. He goes, cause it's highly addictive. And so I took the Xanax for a little bit, didn't like the way it made my brain feel, because it made me feel fuzzy. Mm-hmm. And I said, this is Band-Aid. This is not good. And so I was like, I think I have to be a big girl and I got to go to therapy, because we'd done family therapy prior to this, but I had never gone solo, truly solo. Mm-hmm. So I started doing therapy. I made exercising a big priority because I love to exercise. And so I made it a calendar item. Mm-hmm. Instead of something I will get to at the end of the day, I scheduled it as time. Okay. And I started getting a massage like every other week, to just be forced to have the lights down low. And I got a bad back. And so, being on the road was really hard on my hip, because you're sitting a lot, whether it's in the car or on the plane. And I had a terrible run of sciatic pain throughout the tour. Mm-hmm. And so I just was like, I got to go get a massage, and I got to go get, somebody to just thump on my back and figure out if I can get some relief. And so I did some of those things, and I'm still doing them. Mm-hmm.
Do you ever feel like you want to stop doing all this?
So I've been home a month, and I hate saying it out loud, but I feel lost at home. Mm. So I talked to Dave, and I was like, I know that I'm supposed to feel like a sense of accomplishment, and that I just did this really great thing, and blah, 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 blah. I said, but I'm starting to feel swirly again, and it's only been 4 weeks. Mm. And I was like, I've literally been cooking every breakfast, every lunch, every dinner for every person. I don't like doing those things,
Mm.
but I know that they have to eat. And I know that it is one of my responsibilities. My husband he was just calling me. He's at the building. We're working really hard to get this laundromat open. And, I know that that's one of my jobs right now because I'm kind of, in one sense, unemployed at the moment because the tour has ended. So I don't have any touring dates to go to.
Right.
I'm still doing my normal stuff that I normally do. But if we're being honest, I feel like most of that's therapy for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at myself while making this lasagna and I was like, I can't believe it's been 4 weeks. And I'm like, what am I going to do next? Where am I going to go next?
Yeah.
But that's where I mean, if we're being honest, that's where I am.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that. I think that that's hard for a lot of moms in particular to say because it comes with guilt, it comes with shame, it comes with judgment. But I
Now
heard.
I've loved being at the kids. Like I've gone to 2 track meets and
Mhm,
there's one on Saturday.
mhm,
And I've loved every minute of being at those track meets and driving the kids to the meets. Some of them have been like 6 hours away. Tomorrow is only like an hour and a half away. I've taken my daughter to horseback every week
mhm,
and sat in the car and watched her and recorded videos. And I've loved all of those moments. I
mhm.
mean, in a perfect world, I'd be able to have all of those moments and get to go do those other things that I love.
Yeah.
But that's not how the world works.
Right.
So I can definitely tell you in my personal life, I feel grateful for the last month of being here and seeing things. And I mean, I'm done with my Christmas shopping. Like that's never happened, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I'm trying to find more things to do throughout the day.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, well, what else? What can I do next? Like, what should I reorganize this closet? Should I whatever? Because I don't like to sit still.
Right.
So, but there is a guilt in saying, I miss being on stage. I miss telling my jokes. I miss meeting people. I miss those parts. I don't miss the travel.
Yeah.
That sucks, man. That sucks the life out of you,
Yeah.
being on 8 planes in a weekend or whatever,
Oh my God. Yeah.
But it's amazing,
Yeah.
what you get to do. But, I think by February, I'll be writing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And maybe by the summer, I'll be, telling people what I'm doing.
Okay.
But it's all on the list.
Yeah. So aside from perhaps a solo tour, is there anything else like big in your mind that you want to accomplish for yourself, say in the next 5-10 years? Like what else is next? What else is on the horizon for you?
Well, we're getting ready to open a commercial laundry business that basically services Airbnb and vacation rental properties.
Okay.
And then I want to open, once we get it up and running, I want to open in the front space a wash and fold.
Okay.
I get people don't like laundry. It's my passion, it's my jam. I love laundry. I think the monotony and the like folding laundry
Mm-hmm.
brings me some zen.
Okay.
And I think it's because it's the same motion over and over again, and it just kind of calms me down. And
Mm-hmm.
I get people don't have that relationship with it, but it is a true thing for me. Like I sit and I fold my laundry every day, mostly on a live or whatever, but I do that because I need to constantly be moving. And so if I'm talking to you and I'm folding, I'm kind of in a groove,
Yeah.
and I like the way that that makes me feel.
Yeah.
So we're going to open this up hopefully next month. And within the first couple of months, I'm hoping to open the wash and fold side. We have a huge college population here. We've got a ton of service employees and people who would, probably want to drop laundry. So I feel like it's a service that we're giving back to the community. It's something that I really enjoy. My husband has always been big in wanting to open other businesses and stuff like that because we're both entrepreneurs. I'm a creative entrepreneur, but he is a guy who's like, I want to own 10 buildings by the time we're 50 and blah, 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 blah. And like, I don't have any desire for that part,
Right.
but I know that brings him joy. So I want to work really hard to help him make that dream happen because he's worked really hard to make my dream happen.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I have no desire to be like, let's own a car wash. Like, I don't, but he thinks that's the coolest thing ever. And I'm like, eh. But now a wash and fold, when he said that to me, I was like,
Done.
I will come and work at the wash and
Yeah.
fold. Like, I would love to fold laundry at the wash and fold.
We'll be seeing some fold, sip, repeats from the storefront soon,
Yes,
right?
that
Yeah.
is the plan.
Yeah.
At least a couple days a week, I'll be down, and there's going to be a disclaimer when you fill out your form that says, "Can I fold your laundry on a live stream on
Love
the
it.
internet?"
That's amazing. Yeah.
But it's just there's nothing better than smelling clean laundry. Like, to me, it's just like, how people are like, "Oh, the smell of a baby." No,
No.
the smell of a fresh towel or some nice sheets coming out of the dryer. Oh my God. It's like,
Yeah.
that is, I love that. So
Okay,
I
cool.
just want to share that with others. It's a very weird dream. I get that, but it'll be nice to be working with him again, because the last year and a half we've basically just been, two ships in the night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, and I think last question for you. Being asked to do interviews, being asked like an online magazine wants you to answer a couple questions, like being out in media, is there any question that you don't get asked that you wish you would? Is there anything about you that you wish people would ask you more about, or that you'd want them to know more about?
I feel like I'm a pretty open book. And if I want somebody to know something, I just kind of tell them. I don't even wait to be asked. I think one of the questions that I got asked a bunch that I thought was super ridiculous and it bothered me was, while you're on the road, who's watching your kids?
Mm-hmm.
Because that to me was just the dumbest thing. Because it's like, what do you mean who's watching the kids? Like, my husband's, they're his kids.
Yeah.
They're my kids, they're his kids. I'm working.
Yeah.
He's home taking care of them. Now, a lot of pizza occurred over the last 16 months. They don't even want me to order pizza.
Yeah.
If I say, "You want to order pizza?" They're like, "No."
Yeah.
Nope, we don't. And I had to become okay with the way he was parenting when I was gone, because everybody was fine.
Yeah.
Almost always nobody was hurt. There were some instances with my youngest son, not my husband's fault, of course, but bones got broken and some things occurred.
Yeah.
But he did a great job, but he did it on his terms.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to learn to be okay with that.
Totally.
Because he didn't do it the way I would do it.
Right.
But he did a great job.
Yeah.
And so I just thought that was so silly, because, like, why would you ask Bill Burr?
No.
Who's at home watching his kids while he's on the road?
Absolutely
You wouldn't.
not.
You would never.
No.
Yeah. You would sound so stupid. But to do it to a woman, and I can almost understand why people asked that, but it's like, no, man, like, he's got it. Yeah. He's got it. He's doing a great job.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. I lied. One more. And so my show, like, I talk to moms, women, I talk to millennials, but I also am very upfront about, it being my show. So I ask things that maybe only me and a handful of other people can relate to as far as my listeners go. And, a conversation that we've talked a lot about here, and then I talk a lot about on the show, is the aspect of mental health and content creation. And I wonder if you had to leave someone like me, who's, only a year in, still trying to figure out how the heck I'm doing this with my toddlers and all the things, like, any advice, for new content creators, for mom content creators, that just in your experience is, really something you would want to have someone to said to you 9 years ago?
Yeah. So I would tell you to reach out, ask for help, delegate when you can and if you can. There is no such thing as an overnight success. Anybody who says to you that they're lying. It takes a lot of time and energy and effort to lay the groundwork for what it is that you're trying to do. There isn't, everybody's always like, well, the man cold, that's what made you who you are. And it's like, well, there was a lot of stuff prior to the man cold that I did. However, I'm not going to mince words. Like, the man cold was heard around the world. Like, I don't know that I have another video that had been watched as many. It was hundreds and hundreds of millions of views. They talked about it on the Today Show. They talked about it on GMA. It was everywhere because it was relatable.
Right.
Now, I took that. I had already worked 2 years. And they were like, she's an overnight success. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I've already quit and come back 6 times to this in 2 years. So no, this is not so I would always tell people there's no such thing as an overnight success. You do have to put in a lot of work and energy and effort. Brian was a toddler, I guess. He was 4 when I started this, right? Like it was not easy to have 3 kids with the little one being 4. But I knew that I had something to say.
Yeah.
And so I always went back to that. So as long as you have, and this is my husband speaking, a mission, a vision, and a goal, no matter what you're doing, you can go back there to make sure that you're still on that right path, because there are going to be things that divert you and that get shiny and that you want to chase, but you got to go back to your mission and your vision and your goal and ask for help, email people, reach out. I found it very difficult for people to help me because they wanted to protect, content creation like it was, Burger King's secret sauce or whatever, right? And it's not. There are lots of ways to apply what you're doing and the different things that you might not be thinking of. Like every year I go to this conference, Mom 2.0. I've gone for maybe 6 years.
Wow.
I've gone. I already bought my ticket for Arizona. I'm going again. It's in May. Really excited already for it. There are networking events. There are things that people can do. There are conferences that you can go attend. And you should, because you will meet people who are doing things very similar to what you're doing that can I have a group chat on my phone with 5 other women who blog. And they're now my friends. I have a tattoo with one of them. You know what I mean? That we went and got together. Like you will find people that will kind of come into your sphere and you can bounce ideas off. You can talk about things. And they're just friends now. They're not my blogging friends. They're just my friends. We do a girls trip once a year. And so I think that that's the most important part, is to find people who you can relate to that can help you along on this journey, because it's not easy to do this as a mom and a wife and all of those things. But if you have something to say, you should say it. You should pursue it. If it's a passion, you should, cultivate it.
Yeah.
Because being a mom is one part of what you do. Being a wife is one part of what you do.
Yeah.
What does Christie want to do?
Yeah.
What does Meredith want to do? You're allowed to be you because you have a name, and your name is not Mom. That's why we named the show that. Like, that's not your name.
Yeah.
One part of who you are. It's a big, important part.
Yeah.
But if you forget all about who you were prior to being a mom and who you could potentially become, when your kids leave and go away to college and there is nobody left, do you know who you are? Do you like yourself? Do you still want to be married to the guy that's snoring next to you with his snoring? Who snores through a CPAP? Okay. How do you snore through the CPAP? They do it. He does it. Do you still like him?
Yeah.
Have you communicated the last, 18 years?
Yeah.
That's important stuff.
Yeah.
And I make jokes. I love jokes. But at the core of every one of my jokes is some grain of truth that I have said, this is a struggle of mine. This is something I'm going through. Do you relate to that?
Yes. Yes, I do. To almost everything. So
wonderful.
Well, Meredith, thank you so much. It was so nice getting to know you a little bit better. And I appreciate everything you put out into the world, the rants, the funny, all of it. It's so appreciated. And just thank you. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. You're right what you said prior to it. If there wasn't anybody there to watch it, would it be the same? And the answer is no.
Yeah.
Because when you put it out there, it becomes a conversation.
Yeah.
And we need those conversations.
Yeah.
And that's how I've survived these last 9 years, is with those conversations, because before that, I wasn't having them.
Yeah.
I didn't have anybody to talk to about this crazy life that is marriage and motherhood and all of those things. And I didn't feel seen and I didn't feel heard.
Yeah.
And it's important that we have those conversations.
Yeah.
Whether you're brand new to it or you're, I guess somewhat of a veteran now.
Totally. Totally an OG.
Ugh, gross. You have to have those conversations. They're important.
Okay, so Meredith and motherhood, they go hand in hand. That is what she is known for talking about. When you think of Meredith, when you think of That's Inappropriate, you think of really funny, relatable stories about motherhood. But, what I've come to really appreciate most about her, and what she talks a lot about in this conversation, is the focus on ambition and self-fulfillment, personal development and achievement, and the meaning behind my name is not mom. To Meredith's point about Bill Burr and no one ever asking him, who's watching the kids while you're out on tour? You don't hear interviews with famous men, politicians, CEOs, and so on where there is a strong focus on how do you do what you do and still manage to be a father. But as we know, you cannot have a conversation with a famous woman, politician, CEO, business owner, and not ask, how do you do what you do and still manage to be a mother and wife? And that is a lot of what my show is about, honestly, because that's the reality. And, for me, that is the aspect of motherhood that hit me the hardest. The how am I supposed to still be me and be a mother? What does being me even look like now? And I think we just have to start getting really honest and realistic with moms much earlier on. My kids are 5 and nearly 3 years old now, and I'm starting to see some light, Just today, right now, my 3-year-old is at daycare, and my 5-year-old is homesick, but I'm recording this. Oh my goodness. That's amazing. She's downstairs watching TV. The bathroom is prepped and ready if she needs it. She can reach her water and her snacks in the fridge, and we are functioning. But it's taken me 5 years to get here. It's taken 5 years to start to see the light on the new chapter of parenting and motherhood, where I can leave the room for 15 minutes and be okay. Now, there are still weeks where everyone is sick and home from daycare and school and we're going crazy. But when the schedule functions the way it's supposed to and, things are going okay, I have mental and physical breathing room sometimes. And I know there are moms and women out there who it doesn't, they handle the first 5 years perhaps a little bit better than I did. They are in the position that I am earlier. But I don't know. I have to tell you, I never expected it to take me 5 years after becoming a mom to be able to come up here to my office for 15, 20 minutes, take some time for myself, and have it be okay while my kids are in the house, or at least one of them is. Later on this afternoon, I'll go downstairs to my basement and exercise, and she'll either come with me or not. And I don't know. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that, yes, there are times and situations that you're able to do some of these things before 5 years into motherhood, right? When you have help, when you have someone else in the house, when they're at school, this and that. But I don't remember anyone ever saying to me, it'll be 5 years before you can leave a room and not worry about what's going on in it when your kids are there. You know what I'm saying? I remember when I was pregnant with my second, and my daughter, I guess, was about almost 2, and I was at my cousin's house, my aunt's house, and my cousins were all there, and me and my one cousin had little kids, like little toddlers, and pregnant, and she had a newborn. And then my sister had, my niece, and she's a little bit older, and my other cousin has kids that are even older than my niece. And it was just so funny to sit there and be me and my one cousin sitting there just like exhausted, barely keeping up with our kids, not really interacting with anyone at the party. And my sister and my other cousin, had to kick their heels up. And my cousin said to us, she's like, this is really when the next the next part of parenting begins, when You can leave your kids in another room and not worry that they're going to burn it down. And I'm getting there. And I'm relating it to the time and space to fulfill your dreams and pursue your passions and that ambition. You need time and space. I do. I need time and space. Like, I could barely even write this outro with my daughter in the next room because the TV's on and she's watching Frozen and this and that. It's like, I actually need space to be able to tap into this other part of my brain that is my work and the ambition. And yeah, I don't know. I'm probably rambling now. I do this a lot. I get rambling and then I think it makes no sense. And then I listen to it back and I'm like, no, that makes perfect sense. So hopefully that's the case here, because I don't want to overstay my welcome in my office considering she is downstairs. But my point is that if you're listening to Meredith and you're hearing me and you've got newborns and you've got toddlers, yeah, it's going to take some time. It's going to take years before you feel like you can step away from them long enough to be yourself. And that doesn't mean you have to be miserable. You still find ways of doing it for pockets of time, right? You could still go for a walk. You could still do the things. I don't know. It's so personal, right? Like, there's probably another woman out there that when she has 15 minutes and she's in the room, she can better focus. She can better multitask. She can better switch her brain from mom brain to work brain. Like, I have a hard time with that. But I guess I just want to say that if you're pregnant or a new mom, it's okay. It's going to take time before you feel like yourself again and you can remember what your name is. Like, your name is not mom. And you will get back to her. You will get back to your name. It just takes time. And so thank you for going on this little ramble with me. Thank you, Meredith, for being such a source of inspiration and relatability and validation for all of us moms, whether we are trying to create content or not. You are someone that we all look up to, and I just appreciate you so much and appreciate you for coming on this show and doing this with me, and thank you. So, all right, thank you for listening, and I'll get you next time. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Sass Says is a production of Luann Nigara, Inc. This podcast is meant to be educational and not meant to replace professional therapy or professional medical attention. To learn more about today's show and what's new in my world, head over to sasssays.com. Thanks so much. Talk later.